Thanks for joining us here on RT International. 2 Palestinians have been killed in Jerusalem and several Israelis wounded as Tuesday witnessed 3 separate stabbing attacks. Palestinian youths stabbed and wounded an Israeli guard on a train in East Jerusalem. One assailant was shot by the guard, the second restrained by passengers. Shortly after, Israeli forces shot dead a Palestinian man who was said to have drawn a knife as he chased after them outside Jerusalem's Old City. In a separate incident, border police killed a man who attacked an officer after being asked to show his papers. The stabbings come amid a 2-month wave of violence in the region. RT's Middle East correspondent Paula talked about it with my colleague Andrew Farmer.
The situation on the ground is really one of mistrust and fear. I've noticed it particularly walking around Jerusalem. It's almost as if people are looking over their shoulders, fearful that there will be a stabbing attack any moment. There is also a noticeable increase of checkpoints, of soldiers, of a police presence, and I really think that Arab citizens, particularly of Israel, feel that they're being targeted and closed in, that they're not necessarily responsible or supporting the violence, but they are being held to be responsible for it.
And journalists too are now becoming concerned about their safety because they've been caught up in the violence too several times. We can have a look at some examples now.
Suddenly, they arrested a man who had already been hit by an Israeli jeep. Journalists rushed to get footage, but a border guard pepper sprayed the cameramen and the paramedics, beating and pushing some of them.
نعم الوضع خطر للغاية حقيقة. نعم.
Palestinian NGOs have documented as many as 450 what they say are deliberate attacks by the Israeli forces against journalists. Of course, there's the point of view from the Israeli army, and they say that in the confusion of the moment, it's not always easy to determine who's a journalist and who's not a journalist. And there was one incident, at least, where you had a Palestinian protester that had the markings saying that he was a journalist, and actually he turned around and tried to stab an Israeli soldier.
You've had first-hand experience of this too. I think we can see an example here now.
We're caught in the middle of clashes between Israeli soldiers and Palestinian youth who are throwing rocks and stones at them. The Israeli army has come right up here. They are firing tear gas, which is why I have this mask on me.
I haven't personally had the experience of being targeted deliberately, but as I said to you, there are many Palestinian journalists in particular who feel that they have. I visited a very popular Palestinian radio station in the city of Hebron. Now it's been closed down, all the equipment has been seized, and for the next half a year it cannot function. The Israelis say that the station was using propaganda and was further escalating the situation. We spoke with the manager of the station who said that that was not true and that they were simply reflecting the facts on the ground.
The Israelis shut us down because we were exposing their lies. They kill our people whenever they want. Journalists should receive international protection.
The situation obviously is going to continue to escalate. There's no signs on the ground that violence will abate, and within that will continue to be the accusations from journalists as to whether or not they're on the firing line.
Sure.
Facebook is running out of time to avoid a daily fine of €250,000. A Belgian court has ordered the social network to stop tracking people online who aren't even Facebook members. Let's show you how it works here on the program. It only takes one visit to Facebook for the company to start collecting information about your web surfing, even if you're not even joined up to the site. Your activities can then be tracked through so-called Facebook plugins, something almost every web page is doing nowadays. And they track not just the fact that you visited a page, but also how long you stayed and what else you clicked on as well. Now, on Monday, a Belgian court gave Facebook 48 hours to stop tracking those in the country who are not even members of the network. They'll have to pay €250,000 every day to the Belgian Policy Commission, which brought the case. Facebook claims the technology is simply used for security purposes, but computer security consultant Robert Schifrin thinks no. It's about money.
The problem at the end of the day is that companies like Facebook and Google give you so much for free, and there's a saying that you're not the customer of these companies, you're the product, because at the end of the day they make their money by selling information about you. The more they know about you, the more they know about what you're interested in, what you like to buy, what you like to look at, then the more they can sell that data to companies who want to sell you advertising. When you use the internet, to a certain extent you say goodbye to privacy. Your information is valuable to the websites who you're using, and they will sell that or they'll make use of it. It's the way the internet is heading, and it's the price we have to pay.
This is not the first time Facebook has been sued over its privacy policies. In the United States, a Native American activist filed a lawsuit against the company over the so-called real name policy, which angered groups who want their identities protected online. Also, in Austria last year, a student went to the European Court of Justice over data privacy and won. And now, with the recent court ruling in Belgium, it seems some European countries are now taking action to protect online privacy. A computer security consultant, Robert Schifrin, believes it could actually be down to a cultural factor.
It's a significant case because it involves Facebook, and they have more than 1 billion users every month. I think every Facebook user is worried about privacy, regardless of whether the company is American or British or Russian or whoever. The culture in different countries, I think, is very different in terms of internet privacy and the attitudes to it. In the US, people accept that they use the internet and they're going to get tracked, and privacy to a certain extent takes a back seat. In Europe, it's a bit different. People are becoming even more aware, as lots of major hacking stories hit the news every week, of how important privacy is. People are not aware how to keep their systems secure and how to keep their personal information safe, and they are worried about it, and quite rightly so.
Meanwhile, the Facebook community has now been joined by the US president himself. RT's In the Now. All right, up next is going underground. Unless you're in the UK, then you're going to be finding out about giant craters in Siberia. It's RT International.